ultimately all of us have goals that we want to reach. And it's really important for us as people, as believers, as ambitious folk, as people that just have things in life that we want to accomplish, that we don't waste time on just trying. Welcome to the Dream Lifestyle Podcast, where today's conversation, we're going to be talking about why you should not confuse production with effort, because ultimately, in order to get to where you want to go, there's going to be some things, some tasks, some responsibilities that you're going to have to handle. And it's very important that you just can't confuse effort with that production, actually getting the job done. And to have this conversation, I got my guy, Kenneth is here.
In the building.
For sure. Now, you're a great person to talk to about this, just because you're, a pro football player and everything like that. So you understand the difference between production and effort. So break that down, just your thoughts when you think about, again, what is production and what's effort to you?
Oh, I think there's a basic saying that, especially using like football or sports or whatever, like work smarter, not harder.
That's good.
So that, that's one that definitely just immediately comes to mind when you talk about production and effort. There's plenty of people who are going to put the effort in and, I've been working.
Yeah.
And, but what were you working on? Were you doing the right work for the task that is ahead of you, or, that you're trying to accomplish at that time? So, yeah, there are definitely people who do confuse their effort with being productive or production. And when the results come out, you can see exactly what they were doing, or, the work, the effort that they were putting in compared to how productive they were being over the course of that time.
I like that. And I think what's dope about what you just said is the fact that it really is the difference between the two are the results.
Oh, yeah.
And I think because, again, in order for us to get to where we ultimately want to be, right, whatever we define as success, whatever goal we set for ourselves, and we set our mindset towards that goal, it's like, yes, put in all the effort, but there is a level of, you got to make sure you're doing the right work, but you really got to pay attention to the results. And I think for a lot of people, they find that hard to do, just because it's like shining a real honest light on whatever it is that you're being done. Because like, there's nothing worse than when you put in a whole lot of effort towards something and then the results don't go or don't look like how you want them to look or how you expected them to look, because it's almost heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, I mean, because everybody said, well, you work hard, you're going to get results. And that's true to an extent, because you can work, if you're training for a marathon, but you're out there, you're going to the gym and lifting heavy weights every single day, you're working hard.
You're working.
There's a lot of effort going in.
Absolutely.
But that's not really aligned with the goal that you have in mind.
Yeah.
And in a situation like that, it might set you back even more on what you are trying to get done.
That's a good point.
Sometimes, if you put in the wrong work in or the wrong effort in, it might even hurt you in with the end goal that you have in mind.
So how do you identify the right work? Because I think that's a skill. Like, it's a skill to identify like the right type of work. How do you identify, okay, these are the things that actually matter, that's going to get me the result I want?
For me, writing down the end goal,
okay,
is always pretty important. Whether it's like, for a season that I'm going into, what I mean, write down my goals for what, team expectations, my goals for personal expectations, and things like that. So yeah, I think knowing what you want the end goal, knowing what you want that end result to be, that will definitely help you, make sure you're on the right path, right? Make sure you're on the right track with your work, to make sure you're being productive.
That's big time. Writing down the goals. That's big. That's big.
Yeah. So, stay focused on that, because like I said, some days, maybe you're not supposed to put the extra work in, some day, maybe the brain, the mind, the body, needs a rest, or, stuff like that. Yeah, so I think, setting out those goals before you get started is definitely a big advantage
That's good.
into setting the work that you have to do.
I like that. I think to even add on to that, along with being clear about whatever that goal is and writing it down. I think writing goals down is so powerful because it's just like making it plain. Like it's just like, okay, this is the goal, right? Instead of it just keeping everything in your head, because we go through like close to 50,000 thoughts a day, and I think that's even on the low end. Like there are so many thoughts going on in our head, and it's like if you want to keep your goal in there, like your goal is going to change just as your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
As your emotions go up and down, like your confidence level is going to go up and down. Like you got to write this stuff down just so that way you can kind of keep yourself on the straight and narrow. But I also think in the name of working smarter, not harder, you also need to do some research, right? And it's that part of that's like a two-part. There's two pieces to that, right? Do research just on like what the field is doing, like what's the, you can call it normal practices are or whatever, right? Just to see, in your case, right, with football, it's okay, what types of drills are these guys doing? When should I be working out? How many times a day should I be working out? How long should the workouts be? How long should the recovery time be? What should I be eating during this period of the year? Different things like that, where you're doing the research on, okay, this is what the field, this is the standard, right? But then I also think it's also doing like self-research
Oh yeah.
on understanding like this is how I work. I think a lot of people miss that, where they think, they have to always meet the standard, right? And like in some ways, you absolutely want to meet the standard, right? If there's a baseline, like for example, somebody wants to, go somewhere in their job, their corporate job, like the standard is you go into work or you work Monday through Friday, right? Like that's not necessarily something you're going to, miss or be able to overcome if you're trying to do something in that field. But when you think about adding that layer on top of it in terms of working smart of, okay, this is just how I work. Now you're equipping yourself with the information to know, okay, here's how I maximize just me.
Yeah.
Right. And I think with sports, like that's easily seen just because like ultimately, your body, right? Like for other people, it may be you're dealing with like, the amount of time they can work or how focused they can be and environment they create at their desk or whatever. Right. But in sports, it's very much like, listen, I know my body. So I know what type of warm up I need to do. I know what type of cool down I need to do. Like I know how to get myself going. I know when I wake up in the morning, how like you do that self check in the morning of like, all right, knees are feeling cool, good day to work out or what, or not like, but that's the working smart piece of it. Talk with me about what do you think about just that dynamic of the self research to really understand how you work.
The self part is maybe even more important, and off the field, off training, whatever. Like you said, even if it's just you work you're at this level at your job and you're trying to move up here and then eventually up here,
Right?
at your job. If you're whatever it is, you're in a cubicle all day and you're trying
this stuff
to be
applies
in
to
that,
everything.
you're trying to be in that corner office or whatever it is. If you don't know how you work and how you get things done and where like your level of production is or can be or needs to be, then you're not going to understand, okay, I know that I'm someone who I can crank out 2 hours of work and not get distracted, not talk to anyone, not move a muscle except for what needs to be done or typed up.
Right.
If you don't know that, then you might work for 30 minutes when you could have got 2 hours of work done, or you might work for 4 hours and that last two. If boom, I can work for 2 hours and crank all this out, and then I got to take a break. But you're somebody who works for 4 hours. Then
it's just going to be a decline after those 2 hours.
Exactly,
it's like it's called the law of diminishing returns. Like you're just going to be there for 4 hours because there are a lot of people that, and I love that you brought up like this principle of just understanding how to work smart, not hard, applies to really everything. Right. This applies to relationships. This applies to your job. It even applies to your finance. Like you got to understand how you operate so that way you can work smart at that thing so you can actually get results, right? And we'll get to that part in a second. But what I like about what you just said is the fact that, this stuff applies to other areas in life. And when you think about just, it's like leverage, like you're giving yourself leverage to be able to properly work the way you need to. Because like, I know for me, I'm one of those guys, I only work like 2 hours at a time. Right. And for me, I like playing music when I work. I know other people, they like dead silence. Like my fiance, she's a terrorist for this, but she works in silence. And I think it's the craziest thing in the world, but that's how she gets stuff done, right? Like she could sit at her desk, complete silence, and just zone out and work. Whereas me, if I try that, I'm just going to be like pins and needles, like wanting to scratch all over. Like this is just uncomfortable.
But I think there's also there's also a additive to, sometimes you do have to work in those environments that you're not necessarily your most productive in.
Talk about it.
So like I would say I'm more similar to you. Like even when I'm just like cooking or
something's got to be playing,
cooking or showering or stuff like that, or even if it's a day where I'm doing more mobility and yoga and not like a hard lift and a hard run. I'm gonna have music on. To be in more of like it helps me like get in that right mind state, get in that right zone. What I mean? But there are definitely times where I will put on a completely different playlist like while I'm working out, and it's because you gotta trick your mind sometimes, or
Absolutely.
Sometimes I will work out with the lights off, with the music off, and you're in a total different like state of seclusion or mind state that
where you really got to push through it. Like mentally, you got to be way more intentional to be like, I got to do this. I
have to do this. I'm not in my comfort zone of where I am the most productive, but I still got to get this done. And I don't think that's definitely not an all the time thing, but I think that is something that when mixed in, can like boost production when you go back to your like comfort zone. You know? Because ultimately, I mean, at least for like when you're an athlete, the music that you're playing when you're working out or on the field or whatever, you're not gonna, even if it is a stadium or arena or
you're working
gym,
out, you're playing in silence. Like, there is no music going.
There's noise, but it's it's not the music you're listening to or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you definitely have to. I think it is important to change it up and do some of those different things to throw you out of your comfort zone when you are like trying to be on a level of production. I think when you go back to getting in your comfort zone, you could have more production.
I agree, because there is so much power in just being able to control your mind that way. Like, absolutely, I know my baseline for, okay, if I just want to be effective and I don't need to step out of my comfort zone, absolutely, lock me in for 2 hours at my desk with some music or a podcast playing.
It's going to get done.
It'll get done.
It'll be efficient.
But at the same time, if for whatever reason, if I got to sit there for 4 hours, like I've trained my mind mentally to be like, all right, there won't be no law of diminishing returns. Like we going to stay locked in. Like we going to change the music to something else so I can stay locked in even more. Like I know how to do whatever is necessary. And I think, a lot of people, and this is where we talk about the results piece of it, because there are some people that they may know exactly how they work, but then they're frustrated why they're not getting the results that they want to get. And ultimately, it's like you have to make the decision that something's got to change if you're not getting the results that you want. And that's where you get into, people falling into the blame game and everything like that. And it's like, man, you don't have time to waste. Like I know one of the biggest lessons for me, really just within sports, as well as just now my journey in entrepreneurship, it's like ultimately the results don't lie, right? In the same way, like the numbers don't lie. So
numbers do not lie.
Yeah, like they don't, and you have to, be man enough, woman enough to just look at the numbers. Like you can say, I gave all the effort in the world during this month, during this quarter, whatever it is. Ultimately, whatever that result is, whether it's a financial number, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a performance stat, whatever it is, that thing is, you got to be able to look at that number and say, okay, with all this stuff that I did, this was the result I was looking for, or this was not the result I was looking for. And it's like having the guts to just be like, all right, as hard as I worked, I got to change something. Like something needs to be tweaked.
Got to be more efficient.
Yeah, something has to be tweaked. So how do you do that self-diagnostic? Like, let's say, you put in a lot of effort towards something, right? The result doesn't go your way. How do you self-diagnose like the changes that need to be made?
Well, I mean, for me, it's to see what needs to be changed. I mean, you gotta like you say, you gotta be honest with yourself. But that self-reflection time that's probably like some of the most like challenging time when you go back and you're like, well, what? All right, well, I did all this, but what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Or what was non-efficient? What was inefficient in all of this? That even though I put X amount of hours in and did this and did that, what did I do wrong? And for me, the other thing, I think it's also important to have some outside resources. Whether it's people who know you that know you when you're at like, okay, when he's at his most efficient, I've seen him do this and get this done and accomplish this. Yeah. But it's got to be someone who's going to be honest with you and tell you like, okay, yeah, you were working on this and you were doing that, but you only got these results. Were you working on this? Did you spend as much time?
Yeah. Like them kind of tell you, like checking with you.
Have someone, just have someone else who, can also keep you a little bit accountable. But then I also think it's important to check in and see when you've got some of those results and what did you do then? And then why did you not get the results you wanted this time? And also same thing, have someone who not necessarily, knows you to check in on you, but someone who has gotten, if you can have someone who's gotten the results, like if you're in the same field, you know what I mean? Almost, like a mentor that's been, for me, there's guys that I talk to that, play ball and, at least the same position that, okay, you've got these results before. How did you do it?
Yeah, that's good to figure out where to work smart at.
Exactly, and okay, well, what did you do? And okay, well, I'm not going to do the same exact thing, but I know how I work. I've seen how you work. I've seen how you perform and the results you get. How do I translate some of the stuff you do, adopt it, change it into how it works best for me, and then put it into mine. So that way, next time I go out, I get the results that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think, do you know what you want to accomplish in the new year, whether it be personally or professionally? If you're trying to figure it out, I'm encouraging you to get your ticket to the Dreamer Symposium. This is going to be your space to get really clear on what you want to do, where you are, and you're going to leave with a practical success strategy. And there's going to be an accountability system for the entire year to make sure that you complete it, so that way you elevate your life. All you have to do to get your ticket is go to dreamersymposium.com right now so you can register. I want you to be there because I want you to level up. I want you to go to the next level in your life. I want you to level up in your finances, level up in your personal life, level up in your professional life, level up your overall level of being. And you have to go to the Dreamer Symposium to do that. So go to dreamersymposium.com, get your ticket. Now let's get back to the episode. That speaks to the importance of a success model. Like having someone that has been there, done that you can like literally see, right? And again, if we're making this bigger than even just sports, when you're able to really see the work that somebody else did, whether it's an accolade, whatever it is, right? Like it makes working smart that much easier because you're not thinking, okay, I have this task or this goal I want to complete. And in my mind, on my own, I have 20 potential things I could do. And so you're stretching yourself thin, thinking you got to do all 20. But if you have a success model who has been there, who has done it, who's already gone through, taken the lumps, trial, error, the whole nine, now you can say, okay, of those 20, they really only focused on 5.
Yeah.
So let me see, to your point of like, well, if they worked on the 5, let me see how I work in the midst of those 5, tailor it to me. So then ultimately I may outperform or just be right on par with where they were, right? And I think that is, I wish more people took advantage of that type of resource because ultimately, also with the success model, I think a lot of times people think their success model has to be like light years ahead of them. And it's like, you need somebody that is literally only one step ahead of you. Like, and again, it's not saying like that person's going to be your success model forever. Like, they don't have to be.
No,
You
definitely
just
not.
need to pull and glean from people that are at least one step ahead. Like, as long as they're one step ahead, you can learn something.
Because if you're taking a step forward, then you know you're not going backwards.
Exactly.
So that one step is better than, well, I didn't go anywhere, or I took a step back. You know what I mean?
That's so
it's,
good.
it's always better to move that inch forward than, okay, you did all this work, but you still got knocked back.
Yeah.
So, then that was, then you wasted time, and it was
Yeah.
then it was wasted time. It was wasted effort. A lot of stuff went to, kind of just went to the wayside, and was not necessarily pointless, because you're still going to learn from it.
Yeah, you're gonna learn from it, but you lose time.
Yeah,
like I think that's the
exactly.
thing too. It's like there's no point in waiting around, because you're gonna lose time. And time is our most valuable asset. And I think that's one of the things. Like, a lot of people, they love to say it, but they don't actually like align their actions with that belief. Like, ultimately, yeah, work hard, absolutely, but if you're not working smart, then you're going to find yourself wasting a lot of time that you're not going to get back. And you're just going to look back at the whole thing and just being like, dag, I really wasted my time, or I should have had that conversation with a success model, or I should have done a little more research on whatever that topic of goal is, so I can figure out the path, just so that way, I'm just being efficient with time. Because ultimately, all of us have a limited amount of time here on earth.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's important that we do things the right way the first time. Like, I think that's like probably one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned in life, where it's like, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time. So that way you don't, like, you'll end up with a bigger mess if you mess up, if you only put 50%, like you don't put all that you could into it the first time, and it doesn't go the way you want it to. Now you have like a bigger mess to fix, as opposed to, let me just do this right the first time. Let me take my time with every single step, so that way, if anything does go wrong, like, it's not a big blow up in my face, And I think, and to go back even to what you had said before about the people around you, that all of us need to have somebody that is aware of the step-by-step process of whatever it is that we're going through,
and aware of the goal you set.
Yeah.
I feel like, for me, I know, like, before the season started, like, we was in the in the middle of camp, and just the dudes that I lived with, we just asked each other, like, what are your goals for the season? Like, of course, we want to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah,
we want to do this.
All that we stuff is nice, but what do you want to do?
Exactly. But what are your goals for the season? And we were just honest with each other. I want to be this all pro leader in this, have this many touchdowns, whatever. And so on those days where you're not feeling, those days where you're like, man, that was a hard practice last night, or, whatever, I'm sore on my back or my knees. But you still got to go do something, well, bruh, if you want to be first in this, like,
right, they'll remind you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's so good. And that's super helpful too, because like those reminders, like they mean the world. Because again, like, as you go through the process, like, there are hard moments. There are times you're like, dog, I don't feel like it. I'm tired. I want to take a nap. I want to get off work early, or I got it might not even be like a I'm tired thing. It could just be like, oh man, like, there's people hanging out, like, or I could go do that, and it's like distractions. But like, if you have that person that could say, well, sure, you could go do that. Sure, you could take a break, but I thought you wanted to.
Yeah, you gotta at least get this done first. Before you can go do that.
That's good.
Someone that's gonna help you, just give you those little reminders of, like, keeping your priorities in line to get done what you need to get done, so that way, boom, the end result is what you want.
That's good. I'm pivoting to like it's more of a spiritual space of it though. Do you have like any type of biblical reference that helps you stay in that space of working smart and not hard, and like involving people in your process from like a biblical perspective?
One of the big people for me in the Bible is David.
Yeah.
I think David receives a lot of favor from God, as we all do.
Absolutely.
We all do. But, when you look at, he was, took out one of the most notorious families in, in Goliath and his family. And, and then, they're described as giants. You know what I mean? And he'd taken him out with slingshots. So, he had a strong destiny from the start. But as he, continued to rise to power and, then was king and, leader of massive armies. But, he was essentially, he sacrificed one of his own dudes just so he could,
sure did.
Go be with his woman.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But then that was a setback on him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and there's many other,
there's a lot.
instances with David and all throughout the Bible. But yeah, I think King David, in a sense of just like a reference to like the more you stay in line and the more you stay aligned with, like, sometimes God is very direct with you in your path, and you will hear it straight up. Right. This is what you need to do. I'm telling you.
Right.
Go,
Facts.
Every day you got to wake up at this time. You got to get this done. You got to make sure this is done every day. This is done by the end of the week, and these are done by the end of the month.
Right.
But, and it's like, okay, well, if I got to get this done by the end of the week, I can not do this today. And then by the end of the week, you're rushing to get that done. And if you would have had those 2-3 hours on Wednesday that you didn't check your notes and reread and then, shower and get a workout
right.
in, now
gotta properly plan it out.
Yeah. So then on Saturday, okay, well, I gotta go read my notes and I still gotta finish one more workout and do this. But now you're not necessarily done for the week. And then that might push back,
the following week's work and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
it's a real compounding effect. And I love that you brought up David too, because if you're looking for accountability, you need to check out the Dream Society. For $20 a month, you can join a community that will give you the support that you need and the accountability that you need to hit your goals every single week. And for $20 a month, it is the best investment that you will ever make in yourself. So I want you to go to dreamsociety.info right now to join, and let's get back to the episode. David for sure worked smart by basically leaning into who he was.
Yeah.
Right. To the point that we talked about before of like really understanding how you work. So that way, when the opportunity to slay Goliath did come, all David had to do was be himself.
Yeah.
And then even when you think about after David slayed Goliath and he was, King Saul was going after him and everything like that, David had a really great friend in Jonathan, Saul's son, who basically helped him. And they were, described as brothers, right?
And when he listened to Jonathan, it
saved his life.
It was easy.
Yeah,
it was there was no question that he was gonna be safe, and he trusted in Jonathan and his hiding and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So yeah,
that's so good. No, I think that's really good, because ultimately all of us have goals that we want to reach. And it's really important for us as people, as believers, as ambitious folk, as people that just have things in life that we want to accomplish, that we don't waste time on just trying.
Oh, no. Nah, for me, like this will be like, very, I guess, stereotypical in the, it's like, was it Yoda? Like there is there is no try.
There is no try. It's only do.
Do or do not. And that's one thing for me. Like, I'm not going to try to get it done. I'm going to get it done, or I know I'm not going to get it done.
Right.
If you just tell yourself like, yeah, I'm going to try to do this, well, then it's going to be like, well, then you already leaving the door open, like at least mentally of, well, I'm okay if I don't get it done.
That right there, that is so true.
To me, I can't I don't like to have that like negative level of acceptance.
Yes.
When it comes, like, oh, well, maybe I'm going to do this, or like, there's words that I try not to use, like maybe, try, can't.
Oh yeah, can't is bad. I'd never say can't.
Although
never say can't.
Although all those kind words like that are just like negative, personal, or can like try and maybe, people are like, oh, what you mean? It was just like, yeah, no, I don't want to leave like room for, if I'm getting, if I'm got to get something done, I'm not going to try.
Yeah.
Because your goal, then that end result is going to end up in a maybe.
And I don't want that. And that reminds me, in the Bible, it says, let your yeses be yeses and your no's be no's.
Yeah.
Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like, if you say you're going to do something, do it. Like, there is no try, there is no might, there is no can't, there is no maybe. It's just straight up, I'm going to do it, come hell or high water, or I'm not. And it's a matter of just being honest about that. Like, I'll be honest with the fact, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's changed my life, my business, the way I interact with people, just because I'll be able to, I'm not going to do that. Or I'll just be able to say, you want it done in a week? It won't be done in a week. Like, it won't be done. Like, it'll get done, but not in a week. And that's okay. Right. So for me, what you just said is so good, just because there are so many people that are in that maybe space. And it's like, look, better to just say that you're not going to do it, especially like if you know in your heart of hearts, like you're not going to. Because most of the time when people say maybe or might, they're like, they know, probably won't. Right. And it's like, don't do that. Like, again, you're wasting time. That's where you're just in the trying stage of stuff. And I think that's really good. So ultimately, when we're talking about not being confused, or not confusing, I should say, effort with production, it's a matter of, 1, getting clear on whatever the goal is. 2, really doing the research on just what the standard is, as well as doing the self-research on just how you work to be productive. Mm-hmm. But then 3, it's also being super clear about who you have around you that is involved with your process, as well as having a success model that will be able to pour into you or model to you, okay, rather than you focus on 20 activities, let's focus on, these are the 5 that I did that led to me being successful, whatever it is. So that's good, man. That's good. Well, look, we hope that you appreciated that conversation where we talked about the difference and why you should not confuse effort with production. I hope that was helpful to you. If you haven't already, you can sign up for the Dreamer Symposium that's happening December 16th. That's where we're going to set godly goals for 2024. It's going to be an awesome time. Last year was a success, and this year we're going higher. Some awesome speakers and stuff like that for you to go. So if you're ambitious, I encourage you to go in the description link below to get your ticket for that. And as always, your dream is possible as long as you are willing to work for it. We'll see you guys next week. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Let me take a picture.